Blood trickled from Sarah's lip as her billionaire father-in-law tossed their suitcase into the snow. "My son is dead because of you. You'll never touch our fortune." Little did the cruel man know, her innocent 6-year-old son already owned billions, and the kind-hearted single dad sheltering them would change everything. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Get out. You were never worthy of the Chin name. Richard Chin's voice boomed through the mansion as he threw Sarah's suitcase at her feet. "My son married beneath him, and now he's dead because of the stress you caused." Sarah Chin clutched her 6-year-old son Noah tightly as her father-in-law's security guards approached. "Please Richard, it's snowing outside. Where will we go? Noah is your grandson." "No grandson of mine would have such common blood," the billionaire businessman spat. "Michael's death has opened my eyes to what you really are, a gold digger who trapped my son. Now get out before I have you thrown out." Minutes later, Sarah and Noah stood on the icy sidewalk, their few belongings stuffed into a single suitcase. Her face was bruised from where Richard had struck her, her lips split and still bleeding. 3 months after her husband's sudden death from a heart attack, his family had finally shown their true colors. Hours later, in a different part of the city, Marcus Thompson pulled his worn jacket tighter around his shoulders as he trudged up the stairs to his apartment. At 42, the construction worker's weathered face showed the struggles of raising his 12-year-old daughter Lily alone since his wife's death 5 years ago. As he reached his floor, something caught his attention in the building's dim hallway, soft crying coming from the stairwell. "Hello," Marcus called out, approaching cautiously. In the shadows sat a woman, perhaps in her 30s, holding a sleeping boy. Her face was bruised, her lips split, and her clothes disheveled. When she looked up, fear flashed in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered, struggling to stand. "We'll leave right away." "Wait," Marcus said gently. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The woman hesitated, tears streaming down her face. "My name is Sarah Chin. This is my son Noah. My husband's family. They threw us out when he died 3 months ago. They said we were never worthy of their name." Marcus felt a familiar ache in his chest, the pain of loss and abandonment. "You can't stay here in this stairwell. It's freezing," he said. "I have a couch you can use tonight." Sarah shook her head. "I couldn't impose." "It's not imposing if I'm offering," Marcus replied with a kind smile. "Just for tonight until you figure things out." That night turned into a week. Marcus learned that Sarah's late husband, Michael Chin, had come from a wealthy family who never approved of his marriage to Sarah, a waitress from a modest background. After Michael died suddenly of a heart attack, his family had accused Sarah of being a gold digger, cut off all support, and eventually forced them out of their home with nothing but a small suitcase of belongings. "Michael's father controls everything," Sarah explained one evening after Noah had gone to bed. "According to the family lawyer, even Michael's personal assets were tied up in family trusts that I can't access." Marcus's daughter Lily and young Noah quickly became friends. The boy was quiet and polite, still processing the loss of his father and the cruel rejection from his grandparents. 1 week became 2, then a month. Marcus helped Sarah find a job at the local diner where his friend was the manager. They developed a system. Marcus would drop Noah off at school with Lily, and Sarah would pick them both up when her morning shift ended. In the evenings they shared simple meals, and for the first time since losing his wife, Marcus's small apartment felt like a complete home again. "Why are you helping us?" Sarah asked one night as they washed dishes side by side. "You barely knew us." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "After my wife died, people helped us when we needed it most. Some kindness shouldn't need explanation." What Marcus didn't know was that Sarah's late husband had secretly established a separate investment account years earlier, one his controlling father knew nothing about. Michael had been a brilliant financial analyst before his passing, and he'd invested in a tech startup that was now preparing for a massive public offering. Meanwhile, across town in a luxurious penthouse, elderly businessman Richard Chin slammed his fist on his mahogany desk. "What do you mean there's another account?" he demanded of his trembling lawyer. "Sir, we've discovered that your son created a separate investment portfolio outside the family holdings. The startup he invested in, Quantum Vision, is going public next week. The shares are now worth approximately $2.3 billion. Richard's face paled. "And who controls this account?" "That's the thing, sir. It's set up in trust for his son, Noah Chin. Your grandson is about to become one of the richest children in the country." The very next day, a sleek black car pulled up outside Marcus's modest apartment building. Richard Chin, accompanied by 2 lawyers, knocked imperiously on the door. Marcus opened it, confused by the presence of well-dressed strangers. "I'm looking for Sarah Chen and my grandson," Richard announced coldly. When Sarah appeared behind Marcus, Richard barely glanced at her bruised face, bruises that his own son had inflicted during their last confrontation. "Get your things. You're coming home where you belong." "This is my home now," Sarah replied, her voice stronger than Marcus had ever heard it. "These people took us in when you threw us out on the street." "Don't be ridiculous," Richard scoffed. "You can't raise a chin heir in this place." "Heir?" Marcus asked, confused. One of the lawyers stepped forward. "Noah Chin is about to inherit control of assets worth approximately $2.3 billion. Mr. Chin believes the boy should be raised within the family." Marcus felt his heart sink. Of course Sarah would go. This was what was best for Noah. Financial security, opportunities, everything a mother would want for her child. Sarah looked at the man who had taken them in, fed them, helped her find work, and expected nothing in return. Then she looked at her father-in-law, who had discarded them like trash until money made them valuable again. "Mr. Chin," she said formally, "I'd like you to meet Marcus Thompson. He's the man who showed my son what real strength and kindness look like." She turned to Marcus. "Would you mind if Noah and I stayed a little longer? I think we've found where we belong." Richard's face contorted with rage. "You can't be serious. I'll contest this in court." "Oh. You'll what?" Sarah asked calmly. "Tell the judge how you physically threw us out? How you called me terrible names in front of my son? How this stranger showed more compassion to your grandson than you ever did?" She shook her head. "Michael always said his father only respected power. Well, now we have it." Later that night, after a stunned Richard Chen had left with threats of legal action, Marcus and Sarah sat on the fire escape outside the apartment, watching the city lights. "You could have gone back to a mansion today," Marcus said quietly. Sarah smiled. "A house isn't a home without kindness in it." She hesitated, then added, "Noah and I talked about the money. We want to start a foundation for single parents and children who've lost a family member. Would you help us run it?" 6 months later, the Michael Chin Family Foundation opened its doors in a renovated building downtown. Marcus headed the construction division, teaching job skills to people rebuilding their lives. Sarah managed the foundation, helping families like hers find their feet again. Richard Chin never won his legal battles. In fact, when the media got wind of how he had treated his daughter-in-law and grandson, the public scandal cost him business relationships and social standing. On the day Noah turned 7, he blew out his birthday candles in the apartment where Marcus and Sarah had decided to stay. They'd renovated the whole building instead, creating a community center on the ground floor. Lily, now 13, helped him cut the cake. "Make a wish," she encouraged. Noah looked around at the faces surrounding him, at Marcus who had taught him to throw a baseball, at his mother who smiled more now than she had in years, at Lily who was the sister he'd never had. "I don't need to," he said. "I already got my wish." That night, as Marcus tucked him in, Noah asked, "Are you going to be my new dad someday?" Marcus smiled. "Would that be okay with you?" Noah nodded sleepily. "My first dad told me once that real wealth isn't what's in your bank. It's who waits for you at home." As Marcus gently closed Noah's bedroom door, he found Sarah waiting in the hallway. When she took his hand, he realized that sometimes the greatest fortune comes disguised as a person in need, and that the richest men in the world are those who have the courage to open their doors to strangers.